This place we call it temping, so I'm just going to show you how we make chocolate at Cadbury World and how they used to make it. So what we do is we start off, we pour some chocolate on the table, scrape it, and then this is called temping because we make sure that the temperature of the chocolate is perfect to make moulds of the chocolate with. So at first we use a marble table just because it doesn't attract any heat and it's quite cold and it cools the chocolate down. And so what we do is we spread the chocolate out and then we just scrape it as we go just to make sure. So over 100 years ago this job was done by only women and they would wear all white and they were called the Cadbury's Angels because they were all white. And what they would do is they would just continue to do this like so, just to make sure that the chocolate is cooled down perfectly. Now, how they knew if it was cooled down right, they never used the thermometer, just in case the thermometer broke and the glass broke and then there was mercury in the chocolate and then we'd have to chuck the chocolate away and it would be a waste. So what they would do is how they would check if they get their pinky finger and they would dip it in, and if it was right and perfect then they would lick the chocolate off their finger. Obviously we don't do that now. And once it was ready, they would get the mould. So they used to use these moulds back in the day, but they're quite heavy, as you can see, they're made of metal and they're quite loud. So when they would bang it would make that sound and there would be dozens of women in the factory doing that, so it would be a bit of a headache. So now we use these moulds, they're a lot lighter, they're plastic and they're less noisy. Okay? And what they would do is we put the chocolate in the mould, just like so, and then we would make sure that all the chocolate moulds are filled with frosted chocolate. And we would do that. If they needed any more, then they would obviously pick up some more and do so. Now, and then once they were finished doing the moulds and making sure that all was covered, they would just scrape off this side, that side. And what they would do is if they were making just ordinary chocolate, just like this one, then it was perfect and it was fine. But how they would make sure that there was no air bubbles would they Can you see the air bubbles being brought up now? They'd obviously do this for a lot longer, so there would be more air bubbles. But if they were doing any fillings, you know, like caramel or strawberry or anything like that, as you can see, there was no way of them getting the filling into the bag, into the pouches. So they would put it in somewhat of a basement, a cooling basement, and it would, if it was a windy day, then it would take up to a couple of hours to cool down. But if it was a summer day, then it would take up to a couple of days. Now, once they did that, they would check all the things. How they would check the chocolate was ready was it should be dark here and a bit frozen, and then like that. And what they would do is they just give it a bit of a twist, and then it would come out like that. As I said, it's quite noisy. Like that, and it would come out just like this, perfect for selling and making into a normal bar. Unfortunately, these chocolates aren't edible as they're reused chocolate, but fortunately, if you just turn around to the other corner, you can get